Now let me talk a little bit about our images and stuff we use to get successful on Facebook. One of my mentors had like a really, really good list of stuff that I want to show you guys because it's so powerful that every single image that we pick for anything that has to do with like a Facebook ad, we basically put it through a test. I got 9 things here. You're going to want to write these down because if it doesn't pass or fall into one of these 9 things, there's a pretty good chance it's not going to work on Facebook. And I'm going to show you guys a couple samples after I go through the list of stuff that we use that are going to represent a couple of these things on this list. First thing I want to talk about is the law of incongruity. Basically, you got to remember when people are looking at their Facebook feed, they're looking at their friend's dog and last night's meal or whatever. You got to get a little bit of a pattern interrupt. And, if somebody sees something and they're curious about it, it's going to make them stop and think. For 1 second, if you can get them to stop for 1 second, you can maybe get them to the copy, and then the copy gets them to the click. So that's the first thing I want to see. I want to show you guys about the law of incongruity. I'm going to show you an example of this after we're done here. Another thing that worked really well for us was a hand-drawn and an illustration, and I'm going to show you an example of that as well for an ad that worked. So that kind of stuff works really good. You can go on like Fiverr. You can probably find a designer on like Upwork. If you guys don't have any Photoshop skills, hand-drawn and illustration stuff works really well on Facebook because it's just like not what people are used to seeing in their newsfeed. It's stuff that most people aren't putting hand-drawn and illustrations in their newsfeed, so it kind of gets people to stop for a second. Photos of odd and unrecognizable objects, another really good one. I would not use like stock photos because people have seen that stuff, but there's photos you can find on the internet. You can have a designer take a photo maybe that looks pretty odd and maybe do a little work on it. Just you want to get people to kind of like think for a second, like what in the heck? Like get them to stop in their pattern. That's the main idea. Some other things you can do in Photoshop, or can find a designer on Fiverr or Upwork. You want to change the color. You can maybe do some monotone. Just do some different stuff to it. Run some tests. Tim was talking about 70 ad sets. He hit it right on the head. We don't do usually that many ad sets, but we'll run a bunch of different stuff to find kind of what works. But these are some good things that'll get people to stop. Images that make you think or intrigue. That's a little bit like the law of incongruity. But basically, you want people just to kind of be like, man, like what is that? What could that be? That's going to get them to look. Now, this one here is a little bit ironic. It's sexy but not sexy. It's gotten tougher and tougher to get stuff through Facebook's ad approval, and I'm going to show you some ads at the end here that actually were approved at one time, and then the second time we put them through, they didn't get approved. So I can't really tell you guys what's going to work and what's not, but I can tell you this. If you can get something through that's kind of sexy but not too sexual and not violating the terms, it's a pretty good chance it's going to work pretty well because you're going to get people to stop and you're going to be like, it's tough to get it through. Cloaking, that's an option, but we don't like to cloak because I got these seasoned accounts and I don't really like to mess with that. Gross images are another thing, and people kind of be like, ew, what's that? But again, Facebook doesn't like that too gross. So it's something you really got to watch in the terms of service. And when I say sciencey images, think of like going to school to like your anatomy book when you were in high school, your science class for anatomy. That's a sciencey image. It's something with like the muscle fibers and the arrows pointing at this and that. Those kind of things actually do work pretty well on Facebook. Worth a try if you guys are running some kind of product that could actually work for. These are good, all good tips. I said 9, but it's actually 8. If you guys can get stuff that falls within this, it's definitely worth testing.